Hello and welcome to the video on the model input section. So in the previous video we created the financial model template from scratch. So this is what we achieved, and I hope you are proud of your work, and I hope you are beginning to gain some practical Excel skills also as you followed along all what we did in that previous video. So in this video we are going to start putting in the model input, right? So in this one, I'm going to start with a manufacturing company. So let's call the company CK Health Care Limited. And you'll notice that as I type in the name here, it's going to reflect in all of the other model sheets. That is one of the amazing things we did in the earlier step. Okay, I'm going to say the sector is healthcare, and it's the manufacturing side of healthcare slash manufacturing. Okay, and what is this company producing? Okay, I will attach for you the different model input sheets that I use for different categories of companies. So for manufacturing, it follows this pattern, and if it's for a software services company, this pattern is the one I use. Again, you need to modify slightly for the peculiarities of the company you're doing for, but generally if you have this, you can always be you can easily always model for any company without having to do too much up front. So I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to use this. I'm going to copy out all of this side of it. In fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll copy out everything from here to here. Let me just be sure, row 4, and in our model I'm going to paste. Again, I have included this in the resources for this video, for this lecture, so you can be able to get those templates. Okay, so this company, what should we say? Let's say this company started operation. If it's a company that has been in operations before now, then great, you can be able to fill in for the previous years. Otherwise you can knock off these ones, but then I want you to have maximum flexibility, so I'm not going to delete these earlier years, but I will say this company started production from year 2020. So I live in Nigeria. Naira is the currency we spend, so that's many of these NGN here. I'm going to leave it that way. And like I already told you, this is where I expect the company to fill in their plans. So typically it's the client you are modeling for that is going to fill in all of this information that will be here. But then again, for lecture sake and to help you understand how you explain to the client what all these lines are, we're going to simulate filling them in. But then again, we won't worry too much about the accuracy of the figures, as vis-a-vis reality. It's much more about the concept. Likewise, I'm going to go grab for the director fees and staff cost. So I'll follow same pattern. I copy and I dump. I hope I did that correctly. Okay, yes. And just to ensure the spacing is well done. All right, any other thing I need to do here? By the way, don't worry about all these things showing up in here. You can correct them. What happened is I had locked the sheets you're copying from over there, so I locked them, and that's why they're all happening. Okay, I don't think I have similar situation with this. All right, so let's start with the product one. So let's say the company is into manufacturing of face mask and sanitizers. Okay, so let's change this to test tubes and syringe. Okay, so I guess this is good enough. And if, like we said, the company is just starting to make their products this year, so as per volume of production, they feel they should be able to do for face mask, say 500,000 units. So this is going to be in units. And then for unit price, so each face mask retails for 1,000 naira, but then the cost price goes for the raw materials and the cost of producing that face mask maybe goes for 400 naira. Okay, and for now we are not going to change this too much, except that we'll say maybe in year 2020 they feel they'll be able to bump up the price a bit to 1-2, and then maybe by this year they suspect the cost of production would have gone up. Okay, and as for volume, so they feel they should be able to ramp up production in this pattern. Okay, for hand sanitizers, similarly, it will be sold in units, and let's say they're going to sell only one size. So let's say they're going to retail for 500 naira. No, 500 naira will be here, and as per units, don't know. Let's say they feel they can do a lot more hand sanitizer than face masks. So let's say maybe this goes for 800,000 units, and maybe because the market is a bit competitive, they might not be able to ramp up production as much and sales as much as they will for the face mask. So let's say it just goes up in steps of like that. Maybe we can just modify this a bit to reflect a bigger jump. Then, like I said, it's a competitive market, so they don't see prices going up in that 5-year space. For unit costs, the raw materials are locally sourced. It's majorly alcohol, glycerin, some plastic cover. So it's a high margin space, so they are able to, unit cost is not that high, and they don't feel it will change so much. For test tubes, say they're going to sell also in units, and this in really huge units. So things like the first year they're going to do 1,000,000 units, and the next year they're going to do 1,500,000 units. The year after that they're going to do 2,200,000 units, and they're going to do 2 and maybe 4 million units of test tubes. As for unit price, say this sell ridiculously low price, so 20 naira per test tube, and the cost of production is 10 naira. For syringes, let's just say similar volume and all, except that maybe the prices is much less than the test tube. And okay, all right, so what about the admin cost, general and admin expenses? Again, we're going to put in some figures, but then the key thing is for you to be very conversant with this category of expenses. So consulting and professional services, especially for companies where they, like usually for manufacturing companies, they're going to need consultants, especially for the production lines, to help them configure, set up the software to do the automation. Typically any large company will have to spend on consulting and professional services. And take for this company that they estimate they're going to spend maybe in the first year 2 million naira on consulting and professional services. And let's just not sweat it too much. Let's just put some really fixed amount here and say it spreads similarly for the future. For directors fees, so we can come grab that from here. So say they are going to have 6 directors. So there's going to be the board, the chairman, who maybe his own fee is going to be higher than the rest, and there will be 5 regular directors. So the chairman is going to be will be paid, but now we're going to change this to naira, and I'm going to fix this also in naira. I think I had copied this from the wrong sheet, so let me go grab the right one. Yes, let's see, I had copied from, so I'm going to just grab from here. I should have copied from here, and it's not too late. Boom. So it's the one with the USD is actually the software services, and that's because a lot of times your costs are pegged in dollars, especially for those of us who live in developing countries. You know, the subscriptions, the cloud hosting, a lot of what you do are pegged in dollars, that sometimes it makes better sense to peg a whole lot of your transactions and all of that in dollars. Also, when you try to get VC fundings, they will also want to do the valuation in dollars, because most of the time they are being supported by foreign investors. So, but for manufacturing company, a lot of times you can get traditional investors, banks, to bankroll you, people who are willing to put in money at naira, and typically all of your costs are going to be pegged in naira. So it makes better sense to have, for a manufacturing company that sells and buys raw materials in naira, to use naira as the major currency, or whatever it is that applies for you in your country, whatever your own local currency. So these are things you can always adjust. Then let's finish off what I was saying. Maybe, like I said, for 6 directors, one will be chairman, is going to be paid 2 million naira a year. The others are going to pay 1.5. For now, let's leave it at that figure. We can always tweak them, you know, if we are done with the model and we're seeing that things are looking really not what it should be in real life. Okay, so I'm going to go and pick that from here, from director's costs, director's fee. I drag that all the way down, And since we said our company kicks off operation in 2020, that means we don't have any of all those in 2019. And for the fuel and maintenance, so let's again use some fixed amount and say the company spends 1,500,000 on fuel and maintenance of all the vehicles they have. And for insurance, let's say they spend 1,200,000 on insuring all of the vehicles they have. And on general insurance, they spend 2 million on general insurance. On lease and rentals, say they spend for a company that size, say they spend, inclusive of warehouse, of 5 million a year. For legal fees, say they spend 1 million a year. For management fee, so typically management fee applies to companies where it's run as a subsidiary of another company, and the parent company decides to charge management fee, or if in the setup of the company I've seen cases where some of the investors, especially a venture capital or a private equity investor who is going to be putting in the money to start the company, says he wants to charge a royalty fee or some kind of revenue based refund, or spread in a fixed amount some of the repayment of whatsoever. They want to put their money in a mixture of equity and some non-collateralized debt. Anyway, for this company, no management fee, so we're going to leave that at 0. There's no parent company wanting to charge some money per year to run the business. For office expenses, again, we're going to use some random figure here, but in reality, whoever you are modeling for should be able to give you these figures and explain them in a way that makes sense for you to know that these are reasonable figures. For regulatory fees and permits, so in the healthcare industry, maybe there's some kind of bodies they have to pay some money to yearly, maybe the Standards Organizations of Nigeria, NAFDAC. Let's peg that as at 500,000 a year. For software licenses, software and other licenses, it's that kind of manufacturing isn't too much high-tech dependent, so let's just use a not so large figure on what they need to spend annually on software. So most of the software they will spend on might be things around their ERP, their payroll processing, and supply chain management software. For staff costs, we're going to go drag that out of here. So for this kind of company, yes, there's going to be a CEO, a CFO, a CTO. What do you think for a healthcare company that size? Will they want to have a dedicated CTO? Okay, let's say there's a CTO, but they definitely won't be needing developers. So they probably, in place of developers, in fact, I need to go and copy the correct one for a manufacturing company. For a manufacturing company, okay, I can modify right here. So you not developers are going to need production managers, or slash engineers. Okay, maybe there are going to be 5 of them. They're going to need security expert. For them, security isn't going to be a very high in the order of hierarchy for this kind of a company. Security person would just be like a security officer, almost like a gate man kind of security officer. So I'm going to just say not a security expert, but security officer. Maybe they're going to need two, but they're not going to be paid that ridiculously high amount of money. They're going to be getting, say, 1 million a year. Okay. They might need some scientists, maybe two of them, scientists that are going to be like QA, QCs. So yes, say QA, quality assurance, quality control scientists, or should we say officers, because they might necessarily not be scientists. So maybe two of them. And annual salary, this is ridiculously high. Even for the production managers, this is really high. So CFO, let's just say they're going to need a finance director, one finance director who is going to earn maybe 3.5, not 35, 3.5 million. The CEO, can leave that for the CEO. For these directors for company this size, let's just not give all the money to the directors, huh? So just downwards. The company is going to need also head of IT head. So instead of CTO, IT head. Maybe you will get similarly to what the finance director gets. Production managers, business development manager, definitely they will need someone to do that. Then we're going to need marketers, marketing officers. Yes, that's good. We're going to need a lot of those guys, maybe 6. Maybe for now we'll peg their salary to that amount. Customer service manager, well, let's just say they're going to need a service officer or help desk. One person, maybe will earn similar to what the marketing guys will earn, maybe slightly less. Okay. And what other? We're going to need a receptionist, and the receptionist is going to also earn maybe just slightly more than the security guy. Okay. Like I said, this for demonstration sake. You can always add more as you deem fit for the company you are modeling for, or remove. But you get the whole concept of how this all comes. And then once you know that the salaries are not going to be static, you can adjust upwards, or the number of people the company will hire, you can always adjust upwards and downwards, even for the individual years. Not necessarily should you have it pegged to whatever I have done. So you can always at a point begin to deviate from this. Okay. And with that done, we grab that figure from here. I also have to disable in fact, I should do that for the sheet wide. and say locked enabled. Okay, you might need to do that too if you don't want to see those worrisome green icons. For the subscriptions are basically, what are the companies subscribing to? Are they part of some professional bodies? Some typically for an healthcare manufacturing company, it might be a professional body, and also maybe they have some other subscriptions that they are part of that might just be global membership. We're going to peg these at say 500,000 naira. Then for trainings of staff and the rest, maybe we'll peg that at some 1,200 annual. For travel and related expenses, maybe we'll peg that at 1.5 million a year. For utilities, water, telephone, maybe we'll peg that at 1,200 a year. Then for other category of expenses that you cannot bucket into these explicit classes, then you just put them as others. So let's say we put like 500,000 as others. With this, we can get the sum of the general and admin expenses and preferably make it in bold. In reality, this should maybe go up in, some of them should go up in tandem with general inflation or the company's plans. But like I said, this is just to help you grab the whole concept of how these inputs are being evaluated. So if you need to explain any aspect of it to the client you want to work for, then it's easier to explain and let the client do the hard work of how many staff I'm going to need, how much it's going to cost for all of these different line items. For marketing expense, if the company feels it's okay to spend on advertising, say 1,500,000 a year, and then on public relations, things like sponsored newspaper, some events, well, things that fall under PR generally. So let's say they are not going to be big on that, so they're just going to earmark 200,000. Then trade fairs, exhibitions, say they're going to spend like 500,000. There's a popular trade fair in their industry that they want to participate in on a consistent basis, and that's the estimate of how much to have a booth or a slot. So let's say these are all, they don't have other plans that you can put under other here, so we're going to leave that as these. Again, I'm making bold. Then for R&D, are they going to spend on developing new methods of creating whatsoever product or improving their product processes? So on research and development, the only thing is that in accounting terms, by the IFRS standard, there's a very strict rule as to what comes in here. So most companies don't meet that. So you find out that if it's just sometimes most of what you will like to put here will eventually end up being general professional services and business development. Business development in here. Okay, I think I should include something like that. I can change this management fee to business development expenses. Then we can say whatever ideas they want to test, a new way of breaking into a market or slightly modifying some of their products, and business plans, and a whole host of things that maybe because of the rigid, very strict IFRS specifications are around R&D, you cannot classify them as R&D. Then you have to put them under business development expenses or consulting. If it is done internally or externally, then it becomes consulting and professional fees. So let's put in a mark that they plan to spend this amount on improving their processes each year and seeing and testing things out generally. And for now, I'm just going to not put anything in the R&D. Again, you can put things in here if you feel that they are more appropriate to be in the R&D. I just know that by the IFRS and specification, whatever you put in R&D must be you must have the capacity to complete it. You must be able to say it's going to lead to a specific amount of sales, of revenue. You must be able to say that this is the exact resources required, and it's going to directly impact your core products, your core services. So they are really very strict that you don't want to go and put something in here in the plan that ultimately will not be allowable to put in a R&D in your income statement. So make sure you go familiarize yourself with those rules and help the client in appropriately knowing whether to put the thing in here or to put it under general and admin expenses. So for us in Nigeria, we have a fixed corporate income tax rate of 30%. Some people prefer to use 32 when you factor in the education tax. But then other people argue that the bases are different. Let's not get into the argument and just put, if you like to put 32, put 32 there straight up. For loan, so say the company is going to start with a mixture of equity and loan. So the company plans to take a loan from a bank ABC, and the bank is agreeing to give the company a loan of, so they got the loan like just before kick-starting of the operation. So they got the loan say in 2019, a loan amount of say 50 million naira. So that's what they use in setting up the factory. So they actually, that will be here. Opening value will be 0. Then additional loan is the 50 million naira. So say the first payment is going to kick in 2020. So you have to start repaying in 2020, and say the loan is spread. Again, we are not going to go too much into reducing balance or fixed principal, different ways at which your loans are being computed, or you're going to be paying monthly. We're just going to use something a bit more simple and say, whenever you have that loan schedule, just sum up whatsoever your total repayments will be each year and you plug them in here. So let's say the company is going to have to pay back a total, this loan is spread across 5 years, and at an interest rate that makes both the interest and principal come to 6 million naira a year. And notice that because this is repayment, I am putting it as a negative, so this is the repayment part. And what about the sorry, I have to spread out the interest expense, and this is the loan repayment part. So this effectively, if this is being spread across 5 years, then that means it's going to be 10 million a year. Good, great. And then let's say the interest being charged, so interest being charged is, I'm going to put 2 million here. Okay, and the effective interest rate, you can plug that in. Actually, for a real life loan, you're going to get the effective interest rate given to you in the loan schedule and the rest. So I'm just going to say this loan is a 5-year duration loan. So, and blah blah. So it's a typically it's, if you want to tie this to a formula, is why I typically had this. So 5-year loan, the effective rate is okay, so that it makes it easy for you to grab. Let's say the effective rate is, what would this be? 10 million. So let's just see, 10 divided by 50, that makes it 20%. So let's say this is 20%. Then with that, you can make this, but that's the whole use of why I put this. In case you want it to be dynamic, you can come here, change this and change that. So if you want to see exactly what we did before, but then in a dynamic way, this is going to be the loan addition divided by the year, which is the duration, and I make extra care to add the sign and make absolute the references so I can drag. So now you see that I'm getting the same computation all over, right? Similarly for this, I times the annual rate, and then I ensure it's in maybe then this is not 20%. I have to recompute that. If you pay 2 million a year, 2 million a year, that's 4%. Actually, that's going to be ridiculously low. I think what we should just do is, let's leave it at the 20%. Let's leave it at 20%. So if you have this, then your opening value is going to be equal to the summation of the addition and opening value of last year minus repayment of last year. That will get you this year's opening value. So this is the opening value of the loan, and then if you drag this, it will compute for, okay, since this is already in minus, I think I have to ensure the signs are correct. Good. Right, so that does that for us. And if you also need the closing value, which we don't need here, but when we get to the debt schedule, you're going to have to do the loan closing value, right? So if the interest rate is this, then let's just use this and to compute. I'm going to say the interest you pay this year is going to be equal to this times the rates. So let's use that, and because we are going to ensure the interest expense is in negative, and I can drag this down here. So the lesser your outstanding loan, the less interest you pay. So this follows close to reality then. So let's leave it as this. Say that's the only loan they have on their books, and the other thing is the owners of the company decided to pump in 100 million naira into the business, and they're going to do a dividend share payout rate. Let's say they are not so big on that for the first year. So first couple of years, they don't intend to take out any dividend, but then the last 3 years they plan to do like a 10% dividend payout. No preference shares, so let's say no preference shares, so that will be left blank. And as per capital expenditure, say for setup they had to acquire a building worth 30 million naira, and million naira 1 2 3 they had to 30 million naira. They had to also get plant and machinery worth 40 million naira, then vehicles worth 20 million naira, then office furniture. Why? Okay, I think I figured I was wrong. Okay, then all right. Office furniture worth 15 million naira. No, say 10. IT equipment worth 8 million naira. Patent rights, other intangibles, so like software licenses and stuff like that, say worth 1 million naira. Or say 2 million naira, because they might need to have some kind of licensing rights from the OEMs of some of the software they're going to use and some production processes. Okay, and then let's say they plan to expand their production line, add some additional 20 million naira worth of plant and machinery, expand their sales and marketing with additional marketing vehicles. Office equipment, they are going to keep restocking, replacing some with say some every year spend like 2 million naira on some replacement and additions. Maybe that starts out from year 3. For IT equipment, say they need to do some buying. Otherwise, they're just going to spend 1 million naira, and then some years they will have to spend a lot more. Okay. For patent and rights, they'll just have to extend it after the 5 years. So I guess the next one is going to happen the 5th year, and maybe it will have gone up a bit in price. Okay. Then for the day sales outstanding, so typically how many days are they going to use in collecting their payment from customers? So maybe the bulk of their products will go to hospitals and pharmacies, and most hospitals probably like to take like half a month, so that's like 15 days to process and pay on average. So let's take that as 15 days to collect payments. Then what about the company? How many days are they going to take in paying their their suppliers of their raw materials. Typically, you want to take more days to pay your suppliers than you require to get your money from your customers. But then, say for the start of the business, they needed to have very good payment to their suppliers payment terms. Then later on, they can start negotiating for more favorable terms. So let's say that it follows that pattern. Then how many days of inventory are they going to hold? So how long typically does it take them to sell their finished uh, goods? Okay, so let's say it takes about, they always have like a 20 days stock of products, and other, maybe this is not efficient. 10 days is preferable. There's a cost to holding inventory. For these other ones, you can say because other current assets are things that, you know, it could be prepayment. You paid for rent you've not utilized. You have some things that you have paid for that spill into other months. So let's just put something very low, because for their kind of business, when you're starting a business, you typically will not have so much in that aspect. Similarly, current liabilities, maybe they don't even have, right? So this could be zero, because things like prepaid revenue, customers are paid, or deferred revenue, customers are paid you but you've not yet supplied, and some other things that could fall in there. Okay, let's use same 2, so that way at least you get to see the full impact of when it's there in our actual model forecasts for the different schedule, especially the working capital schedule, because that's where these numbers are going to plug in. Is there anything we've skipped? Okay, what's the bank overdraft terms? So let's say, typically for a startup, it's very difficult to have bank overdraft. So for now, let's not worry about this. Most startups are modeled for, they don't have overdraft. They depend purely on loans and equity injection. But then as they grow bigger, they might want to negotiate some bank overdraft terms with a bank or some financial provider. So for now, I'm going okay, so let's just say maybe they're able to have it. So at least you get to see how it works out when you plug that figure in there. So they're able to get it, and they're able to get it at some not too bad terms. So maybe at 15%. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to save this, because right now we have started the model, and then I can attach this as the outcome of this stage of the model creation. I'm going to call these, what's the company name again? I think CK Healthcare Limited. So CK Healthcare Limited. CK Health Financial Model. Okay. I'll save it somewhere different from OneDrive, because I have problem with OneDrive. I don't trust it. And that brings us to the end of this. As usual, I disable the grid lines. It makes it a lot nicer. And I also do likewise for this. I disable the grid lines. I name this the director and staff costs. Directors and staff costs. And that brings us to the end of another critical stage in our model building. See you in the next video on creating the scenarios. Thank you.